This is More Than Reality podcast, where we dive into all things faith, family, and marriage and share that there is so much more than the reality that you see on the surface. Welcome to More Than Reality with Adam and Danielle Busby.
What's up?
Welcome to More Than Reality podcast with me and him.
What is
Because
it?
it just said Adam and Danielle, so it was like me and him.
Well,
this episode is special because we're super excited to announce that we have a sponsor for this episode. So thank you, Good Ranchers, for sponsoring this podcast. And we love Good Ranchers.
yes. And
Let's tell them why.
yeah, I mean, before we actually have had a relationship, I mean, we have a relationship with Good Ranchers. We were actually subscribers and we were ordering the meat, eating the meat, loving the meat and the company. And it developed into a little bit of a relationship that we're going to touch on a little bit later in the podcast. And we'll kind of give you the backstory of Good Ranchers and why we love them so much. But thank you, Good Ranchers, for sponsoring this podcast. You can go to goodranchers.com, American Meat Delivered, and we'll get into this one.
Yes. It was love at first meet.
It was. Unlike our relationship.
Yes, that is true. So thank you, Good Ranchers, for sponsoring this podcast. We love you guys and your meat.
Yes. So today, this week, it's crazy.
And we don't even know what day it is. I feel like we're still like in the holiday season and we're not.
Because the kids have been out of school because we've literally had the Texas Snowpocalypse.
Like it was blizzard warning. Like this just does not happen in Texas.
So crazy.
We actually
I've never seen snow like this down south ever.
ever. And I'm 41. And this is the first time when I woke up this morning, I was like, the snow is actually still out today.
Yeah.
Like that's never happened in my lifetime.
Yeah. Usually it's like by that evening, it's all gone. The sun just comes through and just melts it away. We woke up this morning and everything's still white. It's slowly but surely.
But the kids are still playing on it today and sledding and making snowmen.
I woke up and went to the gym this morning, and whenever I got home, they were all out in the yard digging in snow. And
yeah,
they were trying to find everything in the yard that was like frozen. Anything that had like water collected somewhere.
There's a little bit of
so they're like breaking.
Like water that sat like on top around the hot tub, like a little bit of water, like a light layer of water, and it was frozen. They picked up this huge thing and just like threw it on the ground. It's fun. But it is still really cold. And what's funny is we talked about the holidays, how it took a long time to get into the mood of like the Christmas spirit and stuff because it was so hot and it was just miserable. And now we're like in this blizzard warning for 24 hours and like snow that's lasting for days. And it's just, what is going on?
I think the last time that it snowed here was like, it was either 7 or 8 years ago. I think it was like 2017 or something like that.
No, because the
2017 or 2018 was like the last snow. Yeah, they were like 2 or 3.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And that was really not much of a snow.
Well, we were in this house, so it was at least 5 years ago.
Oh, but it wasn't much of anything.
Yeah,
I mean, I remember one other heavy snow
this was like going
whenever
on vacation.
I was a kid. I mean, this was like 40 years ago, 40 years ago. And I remember seeing photos from my home, back home because I was small, but all that, like me on like my little Power Wheels 4-wheeler.
Being small and back home after
with my little Power Wheels 4-wheeler, like riding in the snow, had my helmet on. We made like a huge snowman, like all my cousins and stuff. And just because I've seen photos of that was probably the most snow that I've ever seen. I don't think it was as much as yesterday.
No, and Lake Charles back home in Louisiana, they literally got like 10, 12 inches of snow. That is like going to a snow vacation for us. I was so jealous that we weren't at Nana and Papa's house because it was literally like, because they have a lot of property and it's like hills and it's just pretty out there. And they just were tubing. And I mean, it was literally like a foot of snow. That's incredible. But yeah, and the kids have been having a blast. And it's been really cold. We actually let them sleep downstairs. Well, 3 of them went to Chris Ondale's house And then 3 of them stayed here, and we let them sleep downstairs for the first time, like in the living room, like by the fire. And it was cute and cozy.
Yeah, because they wanted to wake up to the snow, which was crazy because all the weather forecasts told us it was going to happen between midnight and like 2 a.m. That's whenever the snow was going to start. And so it was going to be snowing through. So literally we were going to wake up that next morning and there's supposed to be snow everywhere. So the kids wanted to sleep in the living room just so they could wake up and like see right outside. I remember at one point I got up at about 4 or 5 a.m. and I was like, well, let me look and see what's going on. And no snow. I was like, oh no.
I know.
And,
I started to think the same thing.
And so me and Ben, that day or the day before, we were making this massive snow ramp at his house in his front yard. It was like, I mean, it's like 14 feet high, huge snow ramp. He had just a ton, whenever they remodeled their house, he had a ton of extra wood in his garage. And so he's like, let's use it. And so it was over-engineered and it was massive.
But Adam got to put his tool belt on, guys.
Yeah. In a former life, I was a carpenter.
It was just
and
funny
so
seeing.
Like always looking for a reason to grab my tools.
Yeah. He gets there and Corley's like sending pictures. And I'm like, of course, Adam has his tool belt on. It's funny.
Easy access. I mean, if you have a tool belt, why wouldn't you use it?
It's just funny.
I have a tool belt.
I just think it's funny.
It came in so handy that whole day. You can just like reach and grab.
Ben and Sergio didn't have a tool belt, so you must have been like
I was more
leading
efficient.
the show.
I was a lot more efficient.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I know why it took so long because you had your tool belt and you're being all like perfectionist over there.
Yeah, I mean, me and Ben at one point were kind of like we had to stop ourselves. We're like, okay, you like me and him kind of go overboard and we'll tend to over-engineer stuff.
Not
and
you.
So, yeah. So we're starting.
But hey, it was worth it. The kids played on it like that night, even just like as a slide.
Yeah.
It's got on like a piece of an old box or something and just would slide down it. And
because the plywood that was used was like super expensive plywood because it was like plywood that they were using for like that they had left over from all the cabinetry work in their house. And so there was like sheets. I don't even want to know how expensive those were. He's like, but they've been sitting here for years. Like I don't have anything to do with them. I mean, they're just back here, but they're like sheets of walnut, like super expensive. And it's like super slick. And like, you know, it's like already finished. And so that's what we used for the slide. So it made an awesome slide because you didn't have to worry about splinters and they were fast.
Yeah.
So
it was a lot of fun. So the kids, so we did make it over there yesterday, like snow.
Yeah,
morning.
we got a little worried because that night it rained a lot before it snowed, which means ice. And so honestly, we were like debating back and forth, like, should we get out on the road? Should we get out on the road? And
I said no every time.
We woke up that next morning. Kids got to play in the snow. I mean, it was literally like a blizzard here. I mean, driving sideways, blowing snow.
We didn't drive in that, guys. This was like Adam.
No, we waited till like later, pretty much that afternoon. Whenever the snow had stopped, sun was out, and we started seeing like more and more cars like pass in front of the house. I'm like, well, there's cars out, so I mean, we can give it a shot. And we have a route back to Ben and Corley's house that like we don't have to take any like overpasses or anything like that. So we're like, okay, I can take this route and it should be good. We'll just go slow. And so normally it takes us about 25-ish minutes to get to their house, and it took us like 45.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of like heat over the pictures and stuff we're posting and sharing because people were like, that's such an expensive toy, like a one day thing. And I'm like, listen, it was already laying around.
If we would have just went and bought all that material, yes, it would have been very expensive.
It was already laying around.
It was just repurposed.
But listen, say it was like $400 or $500. I mean, literally.
Memories are priceless.
Memories are priceless. That's true. But that supplied like entertainment for about 20 kids for 2 days. If we were to take our 6 kids to like a play place for a couple hours, I'm spending $200 just to let them go play at a play place. So it was worth it. So all the people that were giving a little bit of backlash at that, it's like, listen, like we know I can't go to Chick-fil-A and not spend $100. When a big family, it's
one funny thing is like, so that day whenever we were still at our house and kind of waiting for the snowpocalypse to like settle. And obviously on their neighborhood, people can just walk over. So everybody was like already playing on the slide and stuff. And they had already gone in their house for like a little bit of a break because they'd been on the slide all morning. And Ben said, yeah, he said, then randomly we got this knock on the door and it's this older gentleman. I mean, may have been like retirement age. And he's like standing at the door with an inner tube in his hand. Him and his wife. He said, can we ride your slide?
That is awesome.
So
I want to be those people when I get older.
It wasn't just for kids.
Yeah. Hey, no, we both went on it.
So funny.
It was fun. So today, are we doing intro question? Are we doing question?
We can.
Okay, let's do a question and then get to the podcast. So today's going to be last episode. We pretty much wrapped up like our NICU like story and what we kind of went through and stuff. There's a lot of lingering stories that we'll probably reference into that as this podcast goes on for however long. So we're going to do some Q&As that we had come in after this kind of like topic we covered. And so we like to kind of reach out and say like, hey, does anybody have any more questions that we can better answer after you've heard this part of
over
what we've
the
shared?
last 4, 5, 6 podcasts? Like, you know, what questions do you have out of those that maybe we didn't cover as well? Yeah. So we have a whole list of questions like that. But first, we're going to get to these. All right. So these are the Couples Connect cards from Jeremy and Audrey Roloff. You can get them at beating50%.com. They never asked me one time to talk about them, but I thought these were pretty cool. And we like to support our friends. So, what's your biggest pet peeve of mine?
Does it say pet peeves?
No, just one.
Oh, just one. Darn. Dude, what's the biggest pet peeve? It's kind of changed over the years, but I think my biggest pet peeve right now is that it's kind of 2 for 1 because you got
to give one.
It's the same. It goes together. At least let me put 2 in there. So it's the fact that when you do something, you don't pick it up afterwards, or like you come in the door and you'll put your camera stuff like on the counter, or you'll film something and you'll leave it right there, or you'll take out the foil and you'll leave it on the counter, but not put it just literally right back on the drawer, or you'll open the cabinet drawer for cereal, but not close the cabinet door.
Cabinet door for cereal.
Like if you went to
even have a cabinet door.
If you went to get a bowl, if you went to get a bowl, you'll just leave the cabinet door open. Like these are pet peeves.
I think you're just like mistaken stuff that girls do.
No,
stuff
babe.
that I do.
I watch you do these things, and I wonder if that's going to get on his nerves. And when he hits his head on that, I'm going to laugh. You do. So I've just learned to think like, a
lot of times, like I'm in the middle of something, and then like, well, I'm still doing that, or I might not quite be done, or I might need to grab that, and so like I'll just like leave it where it's at.
Yeah,
leave it open.
Yeah, and your best case scenario, if you're doing anything, you want everything out in front of you, so you don't have to open or take out or do anything. Yeah. And my head
when I'm working on something, I like to have like everything in sight, so
but not everything is in sight. So he just will leave it there wherever it was. And my head's like, just put it up so you don't have to clean it up afterwards. But you agree with me. You just did. You just said, I like to have everything in sight. So, yeah. And I know that.
I mean, and usually like whenever I'm, especially doing something in the kitchen, like I'm cooking
you make a mess.
I'm cooking for 8. Yeah. I'm cooking for 8 people, and I'm usually like frantic going from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And so everything just stays out because like I'm having a boom, 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 because no one helps me.
Oh, are we going to start complaining now?
While I'm cooking, no one gives me any help. So like I'm just like, I'm on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. And that's why everything just stays out.
I feel a little fire in that statement.
Or somebody can come back behind me and like, hey, be my sous chef or something. Or help clean up while I'm cooking.
Okay, give me those cards before we start fighting.
They're right there.
Where? Oh. I'm about to pre-read these and get you a good one.
You can't. You got to turn them over and shuffle them.
That was actually a good one, but I don't want to make you cry.
Make me cry.
Okay. Oh.
You okay.
No, this doesn't say me. So, and I know it wasn't your first. Where was your first kiss? I know it wasn't your first kiss. So that's why I said I know it wasn't me.
You know, I think my first kiss was that I remember. My first kiss was at a church camp, summer church camp.
Naughty, naughty.
I was like 13-ish years old. Yeah. Yeah, we had, and it was not a girl from my church. It was from another church. And it was like this camp that had like a little island where you have to like walk over this bridge.
Island?
Yeah, there was like an island like in the middle of this lake. And you could take a bridge over to the island. And there was like this whole area where they could have like breakouts or like little talks or something.
Sessions?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it's for.
No supervision on the island.
Like, it's crazy. Like, I mean, hindsight, looking back on.
So 13, so that's Blake's age.
Yeah, I know. That's why, like, I feel like I've seen it all and I've done it all. I don't think there's much you can get past me. Got my eye out on these kids.
Yeah. Not that I'm happy that you have, but I think that, like, I'm not necessarily, like, a statement of, like, being happy about the experiences you've had. However, being a dad of girls, you're not naive to what boys at 13, Blake's age think about, or what their minds are at, or like all those things. And so I'm very like thankful for that in you, that you're not naive when it comes to that boy. Hi, Blake. We're talking about you.
Kids are still home from school.
Yeah.
I think they
actually, some of them are outside
tomorrow.
Playing with the neighbors. All right. So
we're going to get to
pretty good questions. Actually, today
Q&A.
is just about questions. So why don't you tell us what? So Adam had shared, hey, this is the end of this kind of topic we talked about. And I'm sure future episodes will always reference back to like parts of the NICU and like parts of our life story and what we've gone through and different stories, because this is more than reality, and you're getting the more than reality of us. You're getting the more than the more. We put up the little Q&A box on the gram, and we've got some questions that came up. So let's start going over these questions. I love this question because it's very unique if you think about it, because it's something that we never thought about or knew about until we were having twins. But the question is, what was the birth order of the quintuplets?
It's something that what?
It's something that we didn't realize was unique whenever we had them, that in the ultrasounds. So
because
we had like
because of the way that they numbered them or lettered them in your womb.
So the birth order is Ava and Olivia. They are the identical twins. So that was baby A and B. And then baby C was Hazel, baby D was Riley, and baby E was Parker. Yeah. And what's unique about this is whenever they were in the womb and we did ultrasounds, like every 2 weeks, it was a part of the ultrasound where if you've had twins, it's the same thing. If it's more than one, they letter the babies from like letters like this is baby A, this is baby B. So even if you have twins, it's baby A, baby B. So, and then C for triplets and blah, blah, blah. So we had quintuplets. So it went to letter E, which was 5. When they're in the womb and doing ultrasounds, to keep up on track with which baby is which. And so they're making the right, stats for that baby. They're lettered by letter. They're
alphabetized.
Yeah. So that when they're looking at baby C and getting these measurements, they know it's the same baby. So in the beginning, it was always difficult because there was 5. But, every baby, the identical girls, Ava and Olivia, were A and B, and they were in one sack. So that you could clearly tell they were the identicals. And then the other 3 were in their own each sack. So when they got to a certain phase of gestation, there was nowhere else for them to kind of move around. So it was almost clear as day, like, this is baby C, always at the bottom, always low at the bottom. And baby E and D are up here. So we always knew like where the babies were. That's how they're measured and everything in the womb.
Mhm.
When you go to delivery, the first baby that comes out is going to be baby A. Okay. And not all scenarios, if you had, say you had identical triplets or you just had triplets, like 3 different sacs, whichever baby came out first was going to be baby A from there on, like until you gave them a name on the document. In our case, they're going to start with the identicals because they're more of the high risk of the high risk. And baby A that came out was baby A, which in the womb was baby A, because between baby A and B, B was always a little bit bigger. And so that's how they came out. Baby B was Olivia because she was 2 ounces heavier. So we knew A was A and B was B.
Mm-hmm.
So then when you pull them out, now you've got more room for the other 3 to maneuver around. Then they started at the very bottom, and that was baby C, which was Hazel. And that was baby C that came out because she was the smallest and measured the smallest out of all of them in the womb and whenever she came out. And then when it got to baby D, which was number 4 to pull out C-section, I'm just telling you, I knew which baby that was because the doctor said, you'll not be able to breathe because I couldn't breathe and had so much pain on my left side constantly, like under my ribs. And he said, you won't be able to breathe until that baby D comes out, which was baby D that we're always measuring. So when baby D came out, I didn't even know what baby we were really on. I just go, like, I remember that relief of like, oh my gosh, I can breathe. And that was baby D, which was baby D in the womb, which was Riley. And then baby E came out, which was just Parker. And so our story of like having 5 babies in the womb, being able to, they were all classified as alphabetical order. We also got to know like their personalities a little bit in the womb, which was a very unique story to us of saying there is life and personality in the womb before birth.
Yeah. And there is no way that we could get them confused because the way that we saw them week after week after week and in ultrasounds was the way that they came out. And so those alphabetized names that they had never changed. All the times that we talked about baby A, all the times that we talked about baby B, it was still the same A, B, C. And
we knew the girls, like this actually goes into another question about like, how did you name them or how did you know to name them? Whenever I knew I wanted the identical girls to be Ava and Olivia. And then when baby A came out, and it's like A was, might as well make A Olivia. I meant A for Ava. So then it was like, okay, then B's Olivia. So we kind of already knew who was who in the womb. And so we built like a relationship in a sense, being like, that's Ava, that's Olivia. We already kind of knew who was who. So it was Rowdy Riley. Baby D was Rowdy Riley. And that just kind of was a nickname as the ultrasounds kept coming and like she would kick more and like all that. And so Perfect Parker was baby E, which she just was
like never moved.
Her
just stats totally were always like super even.
Yeah.
Like,
it's how she was in the NICU. It's how she like
called
is.
Her Perfect Parker.
Yeah. And so like it's a unique perspective on understanding life before it's born, that God created us all uniquely and individuals. And it started at conception and life was formed, and, even seeing the girls being born at 28 weeks and 2 days, which is life being born before full term. It's a child. It's a child from the second that there was conception. God created them each uniquely. Yes, they're quintuplets. They share a lot of the same DNA, but they're all so different and they're molded each differently in their own. And it's beautiful. I mean, God's story around that is a beautiful story. And, it's not something that I understood that, like being a mom for the first time and having Blake, just like being like, holy cow, like I birthed a child grew inside my womb. It's incredible how God's created our bodies to work and how, men and women, how it's differently. And when it came to the quints, it was just a more vivid understanding of life before it's born,
Yeah, because you can see and you can compare, and there's so many different instances of a baby that you can like see how they interact all through this pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
and then how those interactions and mannerisms and everything just carry right over into birthed children. And
it's something that I don't think a lot of people understand that.
You and I mean, we just have this very intimate, unique view of just life inside and outside of a womb. I mean, we just have this different view than pretty much anybody that we know.
Yeah.
Because of all the ultrasounds that we had to do over the course of all those weeks and for hours on end. It was just
Which
crazy.
Is something that I hate for. It's something that I hate for, like, in the medical world of, like, things like I hate that you can't have enough ultrasounds, like, within your medical insurance you have, because you have to have, yes, I had to have these ultrasounds and stuff too, but I wish parents could have a more intimate understanding of, like, their child growing and stuff and having ultrasounds done more often during pregnancy, because I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to see. And, like, yes, our ultrasounds were a really long time, but just like if I compare it to, like, with Blake, it was like, okay, we got to see a heartbeat, we got to do anatomy scan, you got to, it was like maybe 3 or 4 for the whole pregnancy. And it's just a different thing. I feel like getting to see your baby in the womb and just see, I mean, it's life and it's incredible, So I feel like I have a fight in me, like, that wants to, like, be more loud about life before birth. And it's a huge topic around the world.
It's just this experience that most people don't get.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fight in me comes out when I start hearing things about, like, that's not a baby before it's born. It's not like, I get fired up. We're not going to talk about the fired up me on that topic because we're going to continue this, but that will be a future topic that I know I will get to eventually. But life before birth is very real and true. That is our belief, and that is what we know, and that is what we've experienced, and that is what we have been open our eyes to, a full understanding of creation, in-depthness within the womb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people try to argue about, like, our experience. I'm like, well, you haven't had this experience. You haven't had this view of life that we have.
Yeah.
And, so all they're really going off of is, things that they've heard and, like, science and all this stuff that you just don't have. You don't have the actual experience that we have.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to argue with us because, like, you haven't seen the things that we've seen,
Right. And I would say, I'm going to go on a little tangent just a little bit, but, like, majority of people who make this statement about abortion is okay and whatnot is because they're like, oh, I'm pregnant. I have an out for these scenarios, but they don't understand that in our eyes, how we see life before birth, and we built a bond, and we saw characteristics, we saw personalities, we, like, got to see these things. And I don't think I might have thought differently, not with abortion or whatever, but differently with understanding personality in the womb, right? Because our eyes say, okay, we're growing a baby. We need to nurture the baby and feed. I got to eat so the baby can grow. And then outside the womb, we're going to teach them. They're going to get molded. Like, no, like, my perspective is God created us with our personality already in built in. Mm-hmm. From the moment conception was there. Before we were born, God knew who we were going to be. That is what our eyes have experienced. And being able to, there's not a lot of people that I think can go at fight against our view and opinion because you can't compare it to what we have. Because maybe, I don't know the statistics now, but maybe 150, maybe more than that, 1,000 people have had quintuplets. We can talk on a level of probably more understanding of that, but not someone. And even my own self being pregnant with just Blake, a singleton, I didn't have a full understanding of, like, the beauty of what has already been molded in her, who she's going to be. Right. And so I would love to, like, dig into topics like that, more in depthness and do some studies around that and share. Cause I love that because I feel like that's a part of our story that is very unique and something that, a lot of people should hear especially on that kind of a topic.
Yeah. I mean, because it's not just coming from a place, because a lot of people want to argue, oh, just because you're a Christian,
right,
you believe this because they tell you to believe this, or because whatever. And honestly, yes, part of that's partly true. Because of our experience, it enlightened us even more so to this point of like, no, this is truly how we feel about this, because
and it showed us how much bigger God is, right?
Yeah.
How much bigger he is and how much truer his word is, because we experience that, you know? So it's beautiful. So we are, hope to dig deeper into that kind of a topic, because I love talking about stuff like that. But let's roll on to the next topic of questions here. So let's go on to the next question. Thank you, Carla, for that question.
Yeah. And one question that I've had many times over the last few weeks is, I had mentioned that I was doing this carnivore challenge for January. You know, part of it was, okay, I got to take a little step back, and I might as well just segue into our sponsor for this episode, which is Good Ranchers. Good Ranchers is 100% American meat delivered to your door. It is from local ranchers in the U.S. It's 100% born, raised, harvested, all in the United States. No hormones, no antibiotics, none of the garbage that, you may see being put in your meat. And so, part of this is like, it's the new year. So I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try to like wean myself off of sugar and, all this like just junk that I eat. And so whenever I was at the Good Ranchers office, they're like, hey, we're doing this carnivore challenge for the month. And I'm like, I'll do that.
Mr. Sweet Tooth said he'd do that. And I was like, okay, let's go.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's like the perfect thing to like wean me off of sugar and, and I'm even trying to like cut out like all the processed foods and stuff like that. And so right now I'm just eliminating everything. And so it's literally just like whole meats. One thing for the new year is just kind of cutting out like a lot of this processed foods, sugars, gluten, just trying to cut it all out of my diet. Carnivore was just like, hey, let's just like eliminate everything, start with the basics, just do this. And then I can slowly like start to add stuff back in February or whatever. So that's where this kind of thing started.
So Good Rancher box has been coming to the door.
Yeah. And
multiple times.
So, I mean, a lot of people are, looking for something new, something fresh starting in January. It's a new year, new you.
Boo.
Good Ranchers has a promotion right now called New Year, New Meat. And so you can go to goodranchers.com. Actually, you can go to goodranchers.com/Busby. During Good Ranchers New Year, New Meat special, you can subscribe to any one of their boxes that's 100% American meat. So you can choose between three things. You can choose between chicken that is triple trimmed. I mean, literally.
That is the best part
it's the best, it's the best chicken breast.
It doesn't have those nasty tendons on it.
Yeah. I
mean, it's already trimmed off.
So you go to the grocery store and you buy chicken breast at the grocery store. You got to bring it home, and there's all kind of stuff that they leave on it. And you spend like 10 minutes like trimming all the fat and tendons and everything off of it. Well, Good Ranchers, they call it triple trimmed. And so like literally whenever you unwrap the individually wrapped
chicken
breast, you can literally just like season it up and cook it. And so you can choose between chicken breast, ground beef, or salmon, and you'll get that free in one of your boxes, and every single one of your boxes every month for the rest of the year.
Whoa, that's a great deal.
So you pick from the three, and you can receive that as a free gift in every single one of your boxes every month.
Yeah, that's
pretty
great.
Good.
That's a great deal.
So you can use the code Busby. So goodranchers.com/Busby. And then I'll give you 15% off. Plus you get to pick one of the free gifts.
Nice.
And so this is 100% American meat delivered to your door. It's from local ranchers. We support local ranchers.
When you taste the Good Ranchers meat, you will know the difference between any other meat that you buy. I've never been a person that's like, oh, this steak is good, that steak's good, or this chicken, what, like, I'm just like, okay, let's eat it. But I'm going to tell you, I'll never forget the first time that I had even just a simple burger. I was walking out the house to go to an event, and Adam's like making burgers for the kids, and I was so hungry. I just cut a little piece off and took a bite, and I like literally was like, what is this? I'm not lying. Like, I'm not exaggerating. I'm like, what is this? And he's like, it's Good Ranchers burger. And I'm like, we will never have any other burger besides this hamburger meat. It is amazing. Same thing when it comes to the chicken.
Yeah. And
like,
all their chicken and meat, it's like steakhouse quality.
Yeah. I've never been able to tell difference in like quality of something, but like, I'm telling you, we only eat Good Ranchers meat now, and you go somewhere else and you're like, this doesn't taste as good. So I'm telling you, goodranchers.com/Busby, get your 15% off and your free meat added to your package.
Yeah. Plus it saves you time and money. I mean, whenever you go to the store and you buy like the bulk packages of meat and stuff, there's always ends up waste. Well, with Good Ranchers, everything that comes in, it's like already frozen, but everything is pre-packaged, individually packaged in wrappers. So like you only have to take out like, oh, I just need 2 steaks for tonight or whatever. Yeah. You don't have to defrost an entire pack and then cook it all because you defrosted it. Like you can just pull 2 steaks out. And so it saves you money, but also saves you a lot of time because it's just coming right to your door and you don't have to go to the grocery store.
Yep.
And the prices rival anything that's at the grocery store anyway. So might as well get 100% American meat delivered to your door that's supporting local ranches. And you don't have to worry about all the crap that, I mean, most of the stuff that you see in the grocery store is coming from other countries. Yeah. And we can't really regulate that. There's a law out there called the COOL law, country of origin label law. It states, and they let this expire because of special interests and whatever. But what this allows is meat that comes from other countries, as long as they do the final process of packaging, they can put a USDA label on it and say it's a product of the US, when in fact it's not. You know, it could have come from South America. It could have come from, Australia, and it's been on a shipping container for weeks. And you just never know where the food's coming from. Well, with Good Ranchers, it's all coming from America. It's supporting American ranchers, and that's why we love it. And so you can go to goodranchers.com/Busby for 15% off and choose between 3 free gifts that come in every month.
Chicken, beef, or salmon, all of the above.
Yeah. And so, and Good Ranchers, and it's not just like a sponsorship to us. The owners are probably some of our best friends now, that we've developed this relationship with over the last few years.
They've built a unique empire for sure. And like
it was the most random thing. Like Good Ranchers headquarters is in Friendswood, Texas. That's like 20 minutes from our house. I forget why it came about, but ended up finding out that Ben and Corley, the owners of Good Ranchers,
you met Ben at...
They go to our church. And so like then we met them, and then I'm also in this mastermind group with it's a bunch of dads / business owners or whatever. We meet twice a year, and Ben joined the group that I was in, and so that's where we just developed this relationship. And then like got the families together, families headed off. We absolutely love the kids, love Corley, but just love them as people. And then that just developed in all these other relationships. Now that, I work for Good Ranchers, do like a lot of their product photography, a lot of their like marketing. I help with a lot of marketing and partnerships and all kind of other stuff there at the company. Good Ranchers supports us, and we have supported them before that. And so that is why we love Good Ranchers. And so if you love us, and you'll support the things and the people that support us as well. And so I would ask, go out and give it a try, because we did
taste the difference,
and we didn't want to go back. Yeah. So
thank you, Good Ranchers. We love you guys.
So on to the next questions.
Oh, next question. Da-da-da. How do you guys parent each girl different with their personalities?
That's something like that it's funny, talking about,
Let's describe their personalities and then talking about
like Blake. I remember when we were talking about Blake, and, just how like easy of a kid she was. We were like, man, like we got this parenting thing figured out. And then you have quintuplets. And then you realize how differently your kids really are.
Yeah.
And how much you have to adapt your parenting style across the board of all these different kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that's whenever you realize how inadequate you feel. Especially whenever 5 of them are literally in the same stage of life. And so you realize real quickly, because I mean, it's you can't help but compare, like, oh, this one's like this and this one's like this, like, because they're literally like 5
Quote
kids
unquote the same. Yeah.
born within 4 minutes apart. You know, you learned really quickly that like you can't just parent them all the same.
Right. I mean, I think what's interesting is it's definitely took us a while. Like when they were all babies and like early toddlers, it was kind of like they were just lumped in as like the quints. You know, everything was at the same time. But as they got older and those tantrums and personalities and sensitivities all started to come out, it was a struggle to figure out what do we do? How do we parent? How do we discipline? And they all kind of receive differently. They receive discipline differently. They receive love differently. So trying to maneuver through that was very challenging. And especially because Adam and I are, you know, different styles of where our strengths and weaknesses are, but we complement each other in the opposite of those things. And so allowing your children to be that individual person and not assume or accept that just because the other 4 of the quints are like this, it doesn't mean that she has to be, the 5th one has to be like that too, meaning in a disciplined form. You know, I can say the 1, 2, 3 method was still to this day, I think that's the method we still roll with when we need something to
or like
get
a
in alignment.
variation of it. Yeah.
Well, a variation of it.
Yeah.
But that's something you have to be, that's something I don't think a lot of parents have to learn to figure out. But because we have 6 kids, we had to learn how do you adjust, but don't lose the structure of mom and dad are in charge. And this is how we discipline. But we had to maneuver each little route of, for this child, this is what number 2 means and number 3 means the consequence. You know, what that looks like is some of our children are very sensitive. So you could look at them and be like, you know, Ava, Hazel, that's number 1. And they feel that, oh my gosh, like, I need to change my actions. I need to stop what I'm doing. So what that looks like is, you know, if I'm needing to get on to one of the children and say it's some of our more sensitive one, I might say 1, hey, that's a number 1. And they instantly will change because they're like, oh gosh, I'm in quote unquote trouble. I'm getting that direct kind of consequence of a 1. You might look at some of them and instantly already go to, you know, I'm just going to say names like Parker, that's number 2. Riley, are you ready for a consequence? You know, so they all have their different form, but our level of discipline is 1, 2, 3. But they all adjust differently to what those 1, 2, 3 are. They receive them differently. And some of those consequences might be differently too. Like this one, I might just have to put in timeout for 10 minutes or whatever. And the other one, I might have to
just take something
away from them because that's how they receive. The other one doesn't like to be called out in front of other people. That's a consequence to her. And so you really have to get to know how to adjust to each child, but we still keep the level of 1, 2, 3.
There's
the
different.
rules.
Yeah, there's definitely different things at work between all of them. Like, you know, like Riley is the one. Like, don't call her out in front of other people because whenever you do that, she just shuts down and she just becomes like just
Defiant,
headstrong and defiant. And so whenever you need to get on to her or like you separate her from
like her
everybody
number
else
2,
and like take her into another room or whatever, and you have a private conversation with her. You know, like Parker, if she's somewhat similar to that, Parker is like, okay, I'm taking that from you because Parker kind of is more like appreciates things. And so Parker's like more of a thing person. And so it's usually like, instead of like punishing her, like, or sending her to her room, it's like, okay, like now this that you've been playing with all week, this is mine for a little bit.
Yeah.
And that usually does the trick.
Yeah. Hazel's an instant, just
Hazel,
time out.
Hazel, you dang near just have to like give her a look.
Yeah.
She's such a.
And Ava and Olivia are more of the sensitive ones too, but I would say they're more the ones that they just need to roll through their emotions of having a consequence. So they just need time out. They need to like cry. They need to let it out, and then they'll be over it.
Yeah.
So same thing with Blake. Blake's kind of like in that teenager big sister thing, but she's not a bad kid and doesn't really get a lot of consequences. But, she still has consequences. And a lot of that is, okay, like give me your phone, or you're not going to go do this or whatever, and thankful that our first and our oldest is more of that sensitive and not more defiant when it comes to consequences and like discipline and stuff. But these are not things that we just were like, oh, let's do. We tried everything in the very beginning when we're getting to a new phase. And it's like, okay, well, this is our discipline. We're going to teach them all this. That didn't work. We're going to do all this. We're going to do potty training all at the same time. It's like you really just had to separate it. You really just had to separate, be like, okay, well, these two are ready to potty train and they aren't, And for so long, because in the phase of babies and like the early toddlers, it is kind of grouped as one, because mom and dad are needed to do those things for them more. I need to make a food for you. I need to put you in your high chair. And as they got older, they really do grow these individual personalities, which they already had. They're just now learning how to express them and not know how to express them, which that makes us all confused. But I would say that these are things learned over the season of parenting 6 kids and maneuvering through accepting personalities and learning how to adjust to that personality as a parent, to not just discipline, but actually love and show love for how they receive it. And this is a very, very hard thing to do. It's even hard to do as a spouse, and different love languages. Our kids have different love languages, and just making sure everybody feels loved. And so personalities is a very high topic of learning to understand what your child's personality is. And that will really, I think, help you in a lot of areas of parenting, honestly. Fair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just know your child. And yeah.
I feel like we need a high five. Don't you feel like that?
My shoulder hurts.
I feel like we need a high five, because I feel like we've gone through hell to get to where we could actually explain that or say that, because it's been a lot of trial and error.
I've only gone through like 2 questions. Is there a juicy one in there?
Do you yell at your children?
It's hard.
The answer is yes, but
you got to define. Like, I don't like scream at them and berate my kids, but like, I mean, you got to understand that like there's 8 people in this house, and there's like 5 kids that can be at times like super rambunctious and super loud, and sometimes you've got to match that or beat that to get their attention. And so it's like, we don't like scream at our kids, but we may raise our voice to like, go above the pitch or whatever that's in the house right
we
now.
have to be loud.
Just to bring everything down to like focus on, hey, I'm the parent, look at me right now. And so I would say we don't scream at our kids, but we're definitely going to like raise our voice when we need to, as far to like get everybody's attention.
And I think the luxury that Adam and I have, where they have both parents around pretty much most all the time, where we both can kind of roll off of each other's heightened sensitivity in a conversation, or where you can maybe feel like some frustration where the other one can kind of like understand that and feel that, because it does happen to the other person too, where we just kind of say, okay, like if I can kind of hear Adam maybe raise his voice a little bit, or Adam hears me raise my voice a little bit, we both kind of understand the other parent might be a little bit frustrated right now. So let me like kind of let me like swoop in and bring it down, and maybe like do something a little bit differently or whatever. So I would say not every family has that. A lot of things, maybe both parents work at home and they're very limited time with their kids. And so it's always stressful and hectic. But I do think controlling tone and controlling voice really does help your own stress level. But like Adam said, in our house, it's very loud. So sometimes we have to bring a loud voice, which might seem like yelling, but sometimes we have to say like, okay, guys, listen, because they can't hear.
But also, as a parent, have I ever like just got really angry or overwhelmed and yelled? Yes.
Yes, we all do.
But also, in that same vein, have I also realized what I did and went back and apologized to my kid and like had a meaningful conversation of like, hey, I'm sorry, daddy shouldn't do that. And I apologize, but this is why I was upset, and get on their level. And, so it's good to, build that rapport with your child. And like, whenever you do mess up, call it out.
Right.
And have a meaningful conversation afterwards.
Yeah. Intentional time with your daughters is something that we've always been, this is a question here, that we've always knew that we would probably struggle with because there's two of us and we're out daughtered, right? And so I don't think that there's really a best answer for this, but I would say that we really do try as best we can to make any little possible thing extra special and meaningful. I mean, it can be like taking the trash out, like going to the grocery store. And
that's a big one in our house. I mean, because there's so many kids that like you kind of look, you kind of run out of things to do on a weekly basis to get like one-on-one time. And
you can't always just drop all the money to go, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this,
But, sometimes kids just want something so simple as, oh, I want to ride with you to, I got to go run to H-E-B to pick up some eggs or whatever, or we're out of milk. Hey, come with me. And they love that. And it's just something that you get to do with them or they get to do with you that just involves, and then you can have like a little meaningful time
in the car, like take it. Car riding time when we're not all Busby 8 in the van, where you can have like one or two just like in the car with you. Like Blake gets out of school like an hour later. So sometimes one or two of them might hop in the car with me. And so like those car moment times, don't waste those moments. Like always carry on conversation in those times. Talking about one of these kind of went more deep into like a biblical sense and like teaching your kids like a balance of like how to know who God is and whatever. Use times in the car to like pray with your kids, like before school, like, okay, guys, I want everybody to pray. We're going to say a prayer on the way to school. Like who's somebody we can pray for? Let someone pick. Let them lead prayer at dinner. Like we have a whole, quintuplets. So Monday, Tuesday, 5 days of the week.
Blake gets a day.
Each quint gets a day of the week. Blake gets Saturday. Mom and Daddy get Sunday. So we really do try to divide up things so that we can let each of them feel special in a moment. And that comes from saying, if it's Wednesday, okay, Hazel, today's your day. You're gonna bless our food before dinner. Or who can we pray for today? Like find every moment to take advantage of. Like, don't let it wait. Don't let it be wasteful. And don't get me wrong. There are days that come by that we're not very attentive or we're stressed or we're overactive with XYZ and we're not all together. It will happen and time will slide by, but try your best to take advantage of those times. Mm-hmm. So if you have two kids, if you're in a car with one of them, even if it's your teenager, just try to have a conversation with them. And I know teenagers don't necessarily always want to talk. Sometimes they don't want to talk right after school. Sometimes they want to talk right when it's time to go to bed. Just give them a moment. Yeah. Give it a moment, because those are the times that give it the opportunities, give it that, and allow yourself to just have that one other breath with them, And I think those are the things that I think our kids cherish are the meaningful mommy daddy times.
Yeah. And it's rewarding. I mean, like, it's funny because like Hazel always wants to say, I mean, she like won't let you forget it. Say prayers before she goes to bed. And it's just funny because like I always like doing it because you just never know what she's going to pray about. I mean, there's always like 3 or 4 things that like she hits every single time, but then she always throws in something random to like thank God for. Yeah. Like the other night, it's like, God, thank you for pillows.
In my bed, that I can sleep in a bed with blankets.
Yeah.
But I love hearing those random
Like,
like little pairs.
Thank you so much for pillows. They're so cozy.
Sweet Hazel. This one kind of goes on a little bit of topic of a couple kind of talking about tips with raising multiples. I'm pregnant with twins, newborn stage. How do you have fun staying home with your kids? So I'd say the question around newborns is what's the worst thing with newborns? Because I'm a newborn mom of multiples. I have twins. I'm a stay-at-home mom. What can I do with my kids that don't cost money? Let me just tell you, Pinterest is your best friend at that phase. Like, you pull up Pinterest, you find all kind of things to do. Whether it's taking the toilet paper empty roll and making a telescope out of it, or like anything. Like, Pinterest is your best friend if you're a stay-at-home mom. Find all the things in your house to make toys out of. I remember us taking the insert of the paper towel holders and the toilet paper holders, because we got a bunch of those, and just doing like cutting them in half and taping them on the wall and like letting balls drop down, and like just stuff to keep them entertained. Get them involved with laundry and helping sort socks, and whatever you do, let your kids be involved in it, and make it a game. I mean, we do that with everything, especially because we have multiple kids. It's like, okay, who can find the most pink socks? Mm-hmm. Make it fun. Try to make everything fun for them. Their attention span is short. So know that you're going to have to change activities quite often. It's okay to have downtime. Say, this is going to be our quiet time. If you're not doing naps, we're going to have 15, 20 minutes of downtime. What does that look like? I don't know. You're going to watch one Bluey. I'm going to sit in my room and I'm going to close my eyes for 15 minutes, or I'm going to read my Bible, or we're going to read together. Like, we can sit together and watch Bluey, but it's like quiet time. Like, that's okay. We all need it. Newborn phase, man. I wouldn't say that there's a worst part of the newborn. Obviously, you're not going to get a lot of sleep, but the advice would be routine.
Yeah.
I live and breathe and die by like some type of schedule routine. Like,
you live and die by the schedule. You don't let the kid rule your life. You set the baby to a schedule, and you be militant about that schedule, because that is what's going to make everything go smoother.
Yeah. Which goes into sleep training and like all that kind of stuff. That newborn phase is hard to get adjusted to, but soak it up, because it really does go by so fast. And I look back and think, man, I wish the Quints were still babies, because it was so different. And I feel like I was more in control in a sense of like things, and could handle things better, I guess. But it goes by really fast. I would say being on a routine is going to help you. Making sure the baby babies is fed. We did a feed, wake, sleep routine where you feed the baby every 3 hours during the day. So you feed at 9, which means I'm going to feed at lunch at 12. So at 9 o'clock, we're going to feed them. We're going to let them play, even if it's 5 minutes that they can't stay awake. 5 minutes, and then it goes to 20 minutes, and then you put them down for a nap. It helps them learn that, like, hey, I'm actually tired. I do want to actually go to sleep. And then whenever they're at a nap time, you have to wake them up for that next 3-hour feeding during the day. This helps their body stay, filled through the day, so that when it gets to that last feeding at night, they'll be like super worn out and super full, ready to go to sleep. And then you can let them sleep 4 hours stretch, 5 hour stretch. And when they wake up in the middle of the night, like, get on that. Okay, I'm going to wake you up and I'm going to let you sleep, because the first, our day for our night, our morning, our day structure starts at 7 a.m., starts at 9 a.m., like whatever it is. But routine and structure is going to be helpful for your child, but also helpful for you as parent, knowing when. And I'll say mom too, because if you're breastfeeding or whatever and dad's at work, and that was our life, it helps you know like where your moment of breath is.
Mm-hmm. It's consistent.
Being consistent. So advice on the trying to conceive era. Actually, I hope we'll talk about that, but I love this one. I have 8-year-old triplets. How do you handle the sass? Just get used to it. Trying to conceive, it's probably the most like cliche thing, and something that I can't stand, that people tell me like, don't stress out, lower your stress, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh.
There is some truth to that.
There's definitely truth to that. But
that's easier said than done.
For sure.
And typically people that are going through it don't like to hear that.
Yeah.
So don't tell people that. Try to kind of beat around the bush or whatever. But yes, from our experience,
try to enjoy each other's company.
Whenever we kind of found something and it took the stress out of, we kind of like let things lie for a little bit. And like, so, because we didn't want to stress about it. I mean, that's whenever it happened. But I mean, it's hard to not say that, like, don't stress about it, because that there is something to that. It's hard to hear.
Yeah. I think when you get in baby mode and you're like, I want to have a baby, I want to have a family, it becomes sort of like a project in a sense, possibly, especially for those of us who have a really hard time getting pregnant and, trying to grow and have a family. It sometimes becomes like a task or something we have to do to get to that point, and you lose the intimacy or the bond in a sense.
It becomes work.
It becomes work,
Like it becomes something that you have to do rather than something that you want to do. Like, hey, look,
today's today.
It's time. Whenever, it gets like that. It just
and
feels
there's excitement in that because you're like,
work.
Okay,
I mean, most guys are like, yeah, let's go. But, it just kind of takes that spice.
Yeah. And the spark and stuff. So the advice through that is just like, try to really still enjoy each other and do what you would be doing without trying, in a sense. So yes, Tuesday is the day that we need to have sex and try to get pregnant. Well, do something fun and try on Monday or try on Wednesday and go on a date and like try to keep it as less stressful. I hate to use that term, but just as fun as possible.
Play like a game or something. Naked.
Anything naked. Just do that.
Yeah.
That's what the man says. So yeah, I mean, I think communication, being open about what you're feeling and talking to each other about, hey, this week when we try, like, what are things that I can do for you and what can you do for me? Because I think when we take out what we have to do for ourselves, it helps us love better. So in that moment of something that you're wanting to do together to grow your family, try to lower your stress by serving the other person. And, in our world, it would be something like, Adam, you to help me like de-stress or like calm down or like want to get in the mood or whatever. It's like, just give me a massage, like help me relax, like put a candle on or like things that like talk about those things. Like, what can I do to help you and what could you do to help me? And try to make it not as stressful and try to make it fun and intimate and not lose the work out of it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's good advice.
Yeah. You want to pat yourself on the back?
Oh, high five. And to the 8-year-old triplet mom with the girls that are sassy, just do it. It's going to be the rest of your life. Girls are sassy, catty, witty, snappy, emotional. And in our world, it's like, it's funny because it's all the time, and it's overwhelming because it's all the time, and it's annoying and it's all the time, but it's funny because it's all the time. And it's things you laugh at. You're like, why are we emotional about we can't tie our shoes? Like, why are we crying about this? And it's because I've tried and this shoelace. It's like everything's dramatic, and something is just like some kids just whatever. I don't care,
Mm-hmm.
And it's just it's a world of, I feel like we could write a book on the life of the constant emotions. We live the daily all the emotions daily through our kids.
Yeah.
But just embrace it. I mean, honestly, just embrace.
I mean, that's
you just got to accept it. That's probably one of my big advices. Just accept really the phase you're in and breathe.
Because this too shall pass.
And it will. Yeah. I think that advice could go for a lot of the questions that people ask. Like, how did you deal with this? And how did you know that? It's like, you just got to accept it. You got to accept that this is the mode and the phase and the time of life that you're in with your children.
If your kids are just being like, it goes from a point from being like sassy to downright disrespectful. And so
that's something we don't handle.
So there's like a fine line there as far as like, okay, like you crossed a line there and now we need to have a talk, and like, nope, we're going to stop right now, or I'm going to get on your level and we're going to have a conversation about this.
Yeah.
because
you won't talk to me like that.
This can't move forward like this.
Yeah.
This isn't how you talk to me. This isn't how you talk to mommy. So there is a fine line between just like being sassy and kind of just funny and just disrespectful.
Right.
And you gotta set that boundary.
Yeah. And you need to be vocal about that to your child as far as, I mean, we've done this at times too. Like, you know, if you hear them be sassy to another friend or, you know, not use manners in some aspect, like I will be like, child, Ava, Olivia, Hazel, Riley, Parker, like whoever you are, like, that's not how we talk to people. We don't talk to people with that much attitude. You know, like you got to make them aware of it too, because sometimes that's just their nature, their personality, and they're dramatic and whatever. But you got to teach them too. Like, that's not how we talk to people. That's disrespectful. I want you to apologize. You just like Adam saying, like disrespect is it's just so ugly. It's so ugly. It's one of the things I cannot stand. I feel like like sassiness is funny and cute, but that sassiness that is disrespectful, I get fired up with that. Like, it makes me want to call out other kids. And if they're in our home, I'll be like, hey, we don't talk to people like that. You know, I will do that. But, you know, certain places in public, you can't always be the interface of that. But I think you do have to tell your kids and make it known to them, like, that is not how we approach people. That is not how we talk to people. Yeah. That's not how you talk to your own sister. That's not how you talk to your mommy or your daddy or like whatever. Like, you got to call them out on it. You got to tell them.
Yep.
So anyways, these are fun. I like going over the questions, and it's funny to see a lot of the same questions. So hopefully as people are listening to the podcast, we're answering multiple of you's questions that you had, that because a lot of them were the same kind of topics and stuff. So these were the ones that we're going to talk about today. And so this is a fun podcast. And thank you, Good Ranchers, for sponsoring our first podcast sponsor. So we love you guys. And don't forget goodranchers.com/buzzbee for what?
For 15% off your order. Plus you get a pick from 3 different items that you'll get for free. One of those items you'll get for free each month along with your order. So you can choose between chicken breast, ground beef, or salmon. Go to goodranchers.com/buzzbee.
Yep.
And
we will see you next time. Yep. Thanks for listening, guys. Hope you enjoyed the podcast, and make sure to give us some ratings and some comments, because we like feedback and we want to be able to engage with you guys and know, what are y'all thinking? What are y'all wanting to hear from us? I mean, we're wanting to be here to share our hearts and our mind and what all God has taught us these last like 10, 13, 15 years. And so we love your feedback. Yep. So thanks for listening. Love you guys.
Yep. This is More Than Reality. Love you guys.